Well, hello, everybody. We've come to the end of another week, and I'm really thankful you've been watching these videos. I hope you also accepted my challenge back on Monday to start the day, every day this week, with God, with His Word, pursuing that before you pursue exercise, before you pursue work or anything else. And I hope you'll do that next week. Also want to invite you to worship with us this Sunday. Whether you can worship with us in person and on campus at 9 o'clock in our traditional service or 11 o'clock in our contemporary service, or you can worship with us online on our Facebook page, our YouTube channel, or all the links on our website and everything will take you there. I'm going to be preaching a message from 2 Timothy, several different verses in here. A message that I titled, A Weak Religion or a Real Faith? A weak religion or a real faith? Which do you have? That's what we're going to be talking about Sunday, so I hope you'll join us for worship. But today, we are in 2 Timothy chapter 4, so we're finishing up the book of 2 Timothy. And I had a hard time deciding which verses I wanted to talk about because there's so many things in this chapter that I love. But I decided to talk to you about verses 6 through 8 and then verse 18. Verses 6 through 8 read this way. This is Paul writing. He says, "For I am already being poured out as a drink offering, and the time of my departure has come. I have fought the good fight, I have finished the course, I have kept the faith. And in the future there is laid up for me a crown of righteousness, which the Lord, the righteous judge, will award me on that day. And not only to me, but also to all who have loved His appearing." This is one of my favorite passages that I often use in funerals. The Apostle Paul is an older man. He's in prison, probably in Rome, facing death. And he says, I'm already being poured out as a drink offering. What does he mean by that? It's a picture to help you understand how he viewed his life. In the Old Testament, there were many offerings. As you know, Jews would bring meat to be sacrificed. They would bring grain offerings, but they would also bring offerings of wine. And that wine would be in a container, then be poured out on the altar as a sacrifice. And it's as though Paul is saying, my life is a container, okay? Filled with so many years, so much energy, so many opportunities. And as time passes, I'm gradually being poured out. It's like this bottle of water. If I had a place where I could just pour it out, I could start pouring the water out. And in time, the bottle would be empty. When it's empty, it's empty. All of us, our lives are like a bottle of water. We have so much now. Some of us have more water than others. Some of us have more years than others. But we're being poured out. So every day that passes, part of your water, part of your life, part of your years is poured out. Once it's poured out, you can't put it back in the bottle. And eventually the bottle, the container will be empty. There's no more years, no more days, no more opportunities. However much you have, however many you have. Now what Paul says is I'm being poured out as a drink offering. He says my life is being spent, it's being emptied, the years are being poured out on the altar of service to Jesus Christ. Here's the question. What are you spending your life on? What are you emptying yourself, pouring yourself out on? Are you being poured out on the altar for Jesus Christ? Or are you being poured out on the altar of work, the altar of pleasure, the altar of materialism and money, the altar of sex, the altar of selfishness, the altar of self, the altar of Satan? What are you pouring your life out on? Paul says he was pouring his life out on the altar of Jesus Christ, the altar of service. All of us need to do that. Seek, that's what Jesus meant in the Sermon on the Mount when he said, seek the kingdom of God first. And then all these other things will be added to you. Pour out your life in service on the altar of service. Now, he says, because I'm doing that, he was confident. He was confident as he faced death. He says, I'm already being poured out as a drink offering, and the time of my departure has come. He says, there's not a lot of life, water, years left in the bottle of my life, Paul says. I'm almost at the point of death. I'm near the end. Departure is a beautiful term. It's a naval term in the Greek language. It's the picture of a ship that is anchored at dock, and the anchor is hoisted, and the ship sets sail. And you stand on the shoreline and watch that ship move out into the water of the Atlantic Ocean, and you can see it. But the further it moves out on the horizon, the smaller the ship becomes to you, until eventually you can't see it anymore. That's the picture of death, that when we die, we simply depart one dock, one shore, and move to another one. And those left behind on earth can no longer see us. We haven't vanished. We've just vanished from their sight. We haven't ceased to be. They just don't see us anymore. We're as real as ever. We've just moved on to a new port. It's the port of heaven. Paul says that's what death is. I love that image, that we just sail from this dock to that dock, from this port to that port, from earth to heaven. So he says, my life's being poured out and I'm moving from here to there. When I die, that's what's going to happen. And I'm closer than I've ever been to that day. And he says in verse 8, in the future, when I get to that other dock, there's a crown of righteousness waiting for me that Jesus is going to give me. And not just to me, but to everybody else who loves him and his appearing. Wow, beautiful. Now drop down to verse 18. Verse 18. He said, the Lord will rescue me from every evil deed and will bring me safely to his heavenly kingdom. Safely to his heavenly kingdom. When you make the journey from this dock to the other one, you don't have to worry. No hurricane can cause you to sink. No pirates at sea can board you and mess things up. Nothing can happen. God will bring you safely to the heavenly kingdom. Psalm 23, yea, though I walk through the valley of the shadow of death, I will fear no evil. Why? For you are with me. God is with us when we make that journey. Your rod, your staff, they comfort me. The rod, it's kind of like a policeman's blackjack, if you will, with a big knot on the end that a shepherd would use to defend his sheep against wild animals. It's a weapon. The staff, the long shepherd staff with the forked end, we think of as the handle, was used so that when a sheep would get in mud or a thicket or need rescuing, the shepherd could reach over and hook it and pull it back to safety. As we make our way through the valley of the shadow of death, God fights off the enemy and he keeps us from making a mess of it too. That's what Paul is saying here, that he will bring me safely to his heavenly kingdom. I can't mess that up. And nobody else can mess it up for me either. I'm going to make it to heaven because of Jesus, and so will you if you know Jesus Christ. So in the meantime, before the bottle is empty, don't waste the years of your life on useless things. Waste them on the things. I shouldn't say waste. Spend them. Spend them on the things that matter. Pour your life out on the altar of Jesus Christ. And when you get to your last days, when you get to the bottom of your bottle, you will feel good about how you poured out the water of your life. You will feel good about how you lived your life, what you spent it on, the things of God. Hey, God bless you. Join us Sunday morning, either in person or online. And then I'll also see you next Monday with another devotion. Have a great weekend, and God bless you.